Chapter 7. Into the Storm. Stand by for contact with storm front in 3, 2, 1, mark. Prisbin and Ino swayed on their feet as the marathon rumbled. Ino looked around the bridge. Status! Energy shields are holding, said Petty Officer Raha, the new navigator. The damage control teams have also reported in. We now have sublight and FTL propulsion. Ino nodded. Okay, call Captain Rylan and ask him to come up here. Notify me when he arrives. I need to take care of something in the ready room. Lieutenant Commander Beninato, you have the con. Yes, Captain, Sota said, moving toward the captain's chair and giving everyone around a stern look. Privately, Ino and Sota had discussed their joint command style and had come to an agreement. From now on, Ino and Sota would run the ship as what he called a good cop, bad cop pair. Ino would be the calm and approachable commander, embracing some of the traits found in a mother figure. Meanwhile, Sota filled in the role of a harsh and abrasive enforcer. Since becoming executive officer, Sota had already cursed out 2 subordinates for subpar work and disciplined someone for insubordination. Sota knew he was losing his own popularity among the crew, but was willing to make the sacrifice if it meant Ino established her own command more easily. In the ready room, Ino looked over a manifest. Captain Ryland had composed a list of passengers and crew aboard the Adimash, all of whom were now sheltering aboard the Marathon until the space storm passed. Ino wanted to take another look at the list. A name had caught her eye. Axiom, Ino said absent-mindedly. Where did we put the human passengers from the Adimash? The human passengers are in the auxiliary infirmary on Deck 17, Axiom said. Records show those people were residents of the augmented Savanti administration, living on Savanti planets, with permission from the local governments. Ino tapped one of the names on the list. Find Hoshi Yamada and send her up to the bridge. Also, call up all records we have on her. I know she's in the Codex. Captain Quinn arrived on the bridge at the same time as a group of UN Space Marines. He noticed they were escorting a human girl onto the bridge and said, If my passenger has caused trouble, please let me take responsibility for her. Ino was getting used to her heart skipping beats whenever Rylan entered the scene. His voice was just too sexy for her to handle. Ino coughed, put her hands on her hips to steady herself, and replied, Actually, I asked Miss Yamada here because I wanted to ask for her help. The girl leaned out from behind one of the Marines. Me, ma'am? Hoshi Yamada was a skinny 17-year-old girl. In a room full of soldiers and crewmen, she looked very small and mouse-like. Ino put her hands behind her back and leaned forward a little, regarding Hoshi with a pleasant smile. Miss Yamada, our records say you were the captain of a racing yacht before the war. The young girl's whole demeanor changed in an instant. She seemed to light up as though her birthday had come early. Yes, Hoshi responded. I was the youngest racing pilot in the Binary Basin Circuit. It's my passion. Ino gestured to the helm. You must have some real talent for piloting starships, Ino said. I need another helm operator. May I ask you? From the other side of the bridge, Petty Officer Mancini protested. That girl is a civilian. She shouldn't even be on the bridge. Sota rounded on him. During wartime emergencies, the captain has the authority to impress civilians and to grant battlefield promotion. Read the regulations again, Petty Officer. Hoshi was looking at the helm station with barely concealed excitement. This ship is a carrier, right? Not as nimble as my old yacht, but I bet I could do it. Ino nodded. Fine then. As acting captain, I'll press you into the United Nations Navy and grant you a battlefield promotion to acting ensign. Chief of the watch, get her some uniforms, military quarters, and a slot on the duty roster. Captain Quinn, follow me. I need to ask you something. While Junior Lieutenant Xiaohui led an excited Hoshi away, Ino guided Rylan to the communications console on the far side of the bridge. Lieutenant Ndungane, a Zimbabwean woman, took out her earpiece and joined the conversation. "Ever since this disaster happened, we've been trying to contact Earth," Ino said. "But so far, no one's answered our hails. We've been picking up transmissions from your homeworld, though." "We did too," Rylan replied. "But my ship is in the same situation as yours. No one is responding to our hails, yet we could hear transmissions from home." Ino pointed at Lieutenant Ndungane. "Play the transmission we got from Savasia this morning." The comms officer complied. A video message appeared on the screen. It was a public address from Drex Aster, ruler of the Savanti people. Among his own kind, he was called the Oracle. He was speaking from the front steps of his recently liberated palace on Savasia. "A natural disaster of unprecedented scale," the Oracle was saying. "I urge all citizens to remain in their homes and to refrain from unwarranted travel. FTL travel and communications are adversely affected, and a number of hyper-relays are offline. Those living on habitat stations are urged to seek shelter in the innermost sections of the station, as far away from the outer hull as possible. Ionizing radiation can penetrate most forms of matter and can only be stopped by dense metal plating or wide-spectrum energy shields. The Acrux, Taz Zebedor, Koundra, and Hodranus star systems are presently unaffected by the radiation storm. The Hodranus wormhole remains open to traffic." Ino paused the video message. "As soon as the storm passes, we're going to put you back on your ship and start heading for the Hodranus wormhole," Ino said. "It'll send us back to Coalition space. We can take your passengers with us if you think that's safer." "I appreciate the offer. I really do," Rylan said. "I will speak to the civilian passengers from my ship and find out if anyone wants passage to Earth. Obviously, Astro Creator Azarin will stay with my crew. Our mission is to return to Savasia, and—" But Captain Quinn never got to finish his sentence. Petty Officer Mancini suddenly raised his voice and spoke loud enough to be heard across the bridge. "Con, EW, I have a new contact bearing 121-70, designated Sierra 1. Ino and Rylan both looked around. A holographic map of the star system appeared over a large conference table on the starboard side of the bridge. A blue dot appeared, representing the Marathon's location in space. A yellow dot appeared nearby, representing an unidentified contact. Ino fell into her old tactical officer habits. "We need to know what's out there," Ino said. "Are we talking about a pod of space whales, or is that really a ship?" "T. Yankee will take shelter in gas giants during storms like this," Prisbin said. "That's definitely a ship out there. EM scans picked up the drive plume of a sublight engine. Gravitic sensors show the sort of changes in local gravity you'd expect from a starship. And then there's this. Axiom, bring up the feed from camera 6 under, maximum zoom, and put it on the view screen." Ino, Prisbin, and the rest of the bridge crew turned their heads to look at the video feed. Ino dropped her jaw. "Prisbin? What am I looking at?" In the live video, Ino could see 2 bright green bands of light flying through space, parallel to one another. "Those are aurora," Prisbin said. "Ionizing radiation from the cosmic storm is being deflected by an energy shield. So that thing, whatever it is definitely a starship. He's probably using a cloaking device. Otherwise, we would have ID'd him by now. He's running a cloaking device and flying toward us without making contact or identifying himself," Sota said grimly. "This isn't good." "You're right," Ino said. Then she started to give orders. "War's not over just because of some natural disaster. Captain Quinn, I'm sorry, but your people are gonna stay on my ship a little longer. Helm, engines ahead flank. Lay in a course for the Detinol system. Beninato, sound general quarters. We are not getting caught off guard again." The Marathon lurched into motion, speeding away from the abandoned Addimash. Sota grabbed an intercom microphone and barked into it, his voice echoing throughout the ship. General quarters! General quarters! All hands man your battle stations. Set anti-ship warfare condition 3. Contact with unknown target. Up and forward on your port side, down and back on your starboard side. The Marathon was suddenly alive with activity as the crew began to scramble. Down in the hangar, Air Boss Ty called the bridge. That space storm is bad, Captain. I can't give you any strike craft for this fight. Ino swore. Rylan looked at her. This is a carrier, Ino explained. Strike craft are our primary weapons. Beninato, can we get the cloaking sails online? Only partially, Sota replied. Repair crews are not finished out there. We can obscure our drive signature, make ourselves harder to ID and track, but he's still going to have a general idea of where we are. Unfurl the cloaking sails, Ino ordered. We'll run quiet if we can't run silent. What's our relative speeds? Sierra 1 is gaining on us, said Petty Officer Raha. Their speed, relative to us, is about 400 kilometers per second. They're chasing us down, Ino said. It's an attack run. How long until we reach the Detinol hyperlane? 2.5 days, replied Raha. Ino swore again. Why the Detinol system? Asked Petty Officer Mancini. Shouldn't we turn around and go back to Savassia? That hyper relay is booby-trapped, Sota said. And I'll bet that our unknown contact here already knows that. Captain, permission to mark the unknown vessel as hostile. Do it, Ino said. Ndangane, contact that ship. Make a challenge and warn him off. Prispin, tell weapons control to lock onto that guy and give me a weapons check. Comms Officer Ndangane started to transmit a warning to the incoming vessel. Incoming starship, this is the United Nations Navy on guard. You are approaching a military warship without permission. Turn away now, or you will be fired upon. Antimatter missile launchers are ready, and the X-ray laser is primed, Prispin called back a few minutes later. He's not responding, Sota said, watching the sensor overlay. He's popping countermeasures, said Mancini. I count 4 anti-missile decoys. Distance 2.8 million kilometers. He'll be on us in a few minutes. There was a loud clatter. Chief of the Watch Zhao Hui and the new helm officer, Acting Ensign Hoshi Yamada, had returned. Hoshi took her station. The bridge was now ready for a fight. Sota and Prispin double-checked the weapons station. We're bristling, Captain, Sota reported. We've target-locked the enemy with missiles, lasers, and autocannons. Just say the word. Ino, Prispin, and Rylan watched the sensors display nervously. The unidentified ship was still closing. They would be in weapons range soon. Then, quite suddenly, Khan, EW, the signal is fading. He's veering off. The unidentified starship suddenly turned away from Marathon and began performing an escape maneuver. Ino saw this and reacted. Divert all power to sensors. Scan that ship with everything we've got. You want us to scan him? Mancini cried out from the electronic warfare station. Shouldn't we shoot him first? You want to shoot a target we know nothing about? Sota snapped. I didn't think so. Now obey her order and scan the target with the primary, secondary, and tertiary sensors. I don't care if you gotta have people looking out the windows with binoculars. Get it done! Rylan was looking at Ino. He had us, Ino whispered. Dead to rights. Could have killed us all. But he backed off instead. No, there's something going on here. We need to know more. A few moments later, the unidentified ship stopped fleeing. It turned around and began to shadow the Marathon from a safe distance. But Ino was still able to get the answers she was looking for. Khan, CIC. Ensign Johnson's voice spoke over the intercom. We have positively identified the target known as Sierra 1. Educate us, Johnson, Ino replied. A schematic appeared on the view screen. From his place in the CIC, Johnson talked the bridge crew through it. Target is the Destican stealth frigate Kailasha, Tel Manaki class. Armament, disruptor banks and torpedo launchers. Carries a zero-point reactor, impulse thrusters. Defenses include neutronium armor, hyper shields, and cloaking sails. Ino let out a low whistle. She's a capital ship killer. That thing would have eaten us for lunch. How do you know that? Asked Hoshi. That's the same type of ship I flew at the Galax War Games, Ino replied. And they were flying the same type of attack run we did back then. Ensign Johnson spoke over the intercom again. You might find this interesting, Captain. According to outdated intelligence from the Counterintelligence and Security Agency, Kailasha was the personal flagship of Araj Zilfalin, biological son of the enemy ruler. For all we know, he might still be on that ship. Meanwhile, on the Kailasha, a scuffle had broken out on the bridge. A group of Desticans held onto their commanding officer, begging him to show restraint. Several more Desticans were tending to one of their comrades who was lying injured on the floor. The furious commander being held back by his men was Araj Zilfalin. He raged and spat insults toward the injured Necroid, who was dressed in the flowing silver robes of the astral shaman. Paranold, you vile creature! You dare countermand my orders when I was upon the brink of a glorious victory! I could have annihilated an enemy command ship! Araj was seething. What stupid, selfish impulse would cause you to spare the lives of lesser beings? Are you a traitor to your own race? Tell me before I beat you to death and then boil you alive! The bridge crew were all attempting to hide their expressions of shock. To assault an astral shaman was considered a heinous crime on Decronia, worthy of capital punishment. Araj, however, was a prince. His father was the Novella of Decronia, and he would most certainly turn a blind eye to this transgression. As Shaman Paranold struggled to his feet, he wiped blood from his head. Araj had struck the old man so hard that one of his horns was broken. My most glorious and intelligent prince, the shaman began, I know that in your wisdom you will forgive my actions while I give you the reasons behind them. Araj broke free of his crew and drew a plasma pistol from his holster. And if I am not satisfied with your reasons, you will not return to Decronia. The bridge crew backed away. Shaman Paranold raised his hands to chest height and said, My prince, in your boundless intellect, recall 2 years ago when we infiltrated the primitive war rehearsals at Tau City. You ordered me to inform you were I to ever again sense the presence of the savage girl who was once the object of your attention. As the shaman spoke, the expression on Araj's face changed. His orange eyes lit up as though there was a fire burning in his soul. He lowered his weapon and reached out to the shaman. You felt her. You felt her presence. Araj's voice fell into a lecherous whisper. I did, Shaman Paranold replied. The savage girl is on that ship. It is as your most divine father, may he live forever, told you. The cosmos have conspired to bring you the prize you so rightly deserve. Araj Zilfalin embraced the shaman. My dear shaman, may all of your wrongs be forgiven, and may the cosmos bring you naught but good fortune for as long as you may live.
Creeping in my sword's getting out of control. I gotta find my escape, get out of this black hole. Cause justice in the world is hard to find. Time has come, gotta make up my mind. No matter how deep or remote I hide, all my thoughts seem caught up inside. Creeps from the deeps, gonna be freaking up your mind.